another live stream. So we're talking about Trump. We're going to talk about NATO, the whole collapse and breakdown of the Western world. I just caught wind of the last World Economic Forum meeting, and some of the things I heard was a bit alarming. Y'all make sure y'all double tap the screen on your way in. Hope everybody's feeling well. Peace and blessings to everybody joining. We got to get into it, y'all. Now, I'm going to say this before we even get started. Let me greet y'all, the good people. Then we going to go in. I see y'all. Who's that? Girls in the building. Let's see. Devin's in the house. Rich King, what's happening? Hey, what's going on? Metal. Let's see. Audacity is in the building. Hayes. J. Amando. Charlene Stewart is in the building. Hello. Hello. Now, before we even get into this, I want to first let it be known that Trump is not the first president to show resistance towards NATO. You had Richard Nixon, Eisenhower, and even Barack Obama. They had things to say about NATO. But nonetheless, this situation is a little bit different because this is more about decorum. This is more about respect for authority that Trump showed a lack of. And, although NATO didn't blatantly come out and say they didn't want, that Trump couldn't purchase Greenland, because that's a new thing. He's talking about buying Greenland. They did directly oppose his tactics. And, I'm talking about people that are closely associated to NATO and leaders in NATO. So I want you to keep all that in mind. And I'm going to show y'all some of what was talked about in the World Economic Forum. And so you can just kind of get an understanding of what's going on with the Western world right now, right? Because this one was different. Now, these World Economic Forums, they give us a lot of what's going to happen in the future if you just listen to what they're talking about. But I'm going to definitely shed some light on this so we can just have that understanding. Let's go.
That was so strong just prior to that, and I was with the two best pollsters about economies and recessions. Is sometimes you get hit unexpectedly and there's nothing you can do about it. All brilliant people, but there's nothing. One example was COVID. We had an economy going at levels like nobody had ever seen my first 2.5, 3 years. And then I heard the word pandemic, not COVID. They came up with that name over a period of time. We won't get into that. But I heard the word pandemic. And I had a poll come out that was so strong just prior to that. And I was with the two best pollsters, McLaughlin, Fabrizio. And they said, sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president and vice president, they couldn't beat you. And then what happened is the following day, I was told to stay tuned because there's something really bad happening in China. There are bodies laying all over Wuhan.
So right now he's talking about the pandemic that took place and how it destabilized the economy, right? And, Trump was actually in office during this time because he was the one who fast-tracked the actual vaccine. And, I'm just going to tell you this right off the back. These people know exactly what's going to happen before it happens. Of course, he's playing his role as the Manchurian candidate, the current Manchurian candidate, playing his role as someone who was oblivious to what was supposed to happen. He knew what was going to happen. These people, when their mouths are moving, they're lying, right? because he was already, he was already doing what he already was able to fast track the vaccine. I mean, they all know in advance. Let's go.
Right around that certain building that we talk about. I always said it came from Wuhan. It did come from Wuhan. And there were body bags. We saw it by satellite. And they said there are strange things happening in China. And so it began. And we ended up with the COVID, and the whole world suffered. We did a phenomenal job. I don't think we got the credit we deserve. We did something that Operation Warp Speed, which some people say was one of the greatest military feats ever. We did it.
Absolutely. Operation Warp Speed.
Great job. Use our military, use a lot of people. But sometimes you get hit with things, nothing you can do. You get hit with things like that unexpectedly. And we got through it. And when I left, the stock market was higher than it was previous to the COVID coming up. And I called it a great achievement. But things happen. Bad things happen. The things that we can stop are wars if we're smart. That we can stop. Those are a matter of being intelligent and having intelligent people on the other side, because wars are the worst of all. Wars are worse than anything. But we can stop wars because that's sort of up to us. But things like...
Now, I want to be very clear. When it comes to wars, America is in the midst of practically every war, because we have been somewhat the military branch of the United Kingdoms or the United Nations. And see, this is why it is very interesting to see some of the things that were said about NATO coming directly from Trump. And, NATO, for those who don't quite understand why this is important, first of all, NATO is pretty much an alliance where we're all protected. And that means military alliance as well between all these Western countries. It's supposed to be allies with the Western world, the entire Western world, And when you see America standing out, that's kind of astonishing. That's kind of astonishing, because where's our protection? And the way Trump is talking, he like, look, if something happened, we don't even know if NATO got us. We don't even know if NATO got us. These are the things that Trump is saying about NATO. And you've never heard. So imagine all these little wars, all these little fires that's going on. Imagine not having any backup if things hit the fan. That's what's really happening. You got America that seems like it's obligated to defend other countries, while at the same time, do we have any real alliances? Because you got Trump threatening to pull out of NATO, threatening them to leave NATO. You got Trump who's told allies that the U.S. might not defend them if they didn't pay up. So meanwhile, you got this guy over here trying to jug people out of money. But at the same time, you don't really have the backup to be talking that way. Trump is talking about reducing U.S. troops that are present in Europe. So is it like, are we not allies with the European leaders no more? Because a weakened NATO would boost Russia. That would embolden Russia. U.S. withdrawals from Europe, that could collapse the alliance with Europe. The America First policy could fracture Western powers. So do you understand how this America First thing can actually leave us America alone opposed to America First? Anyway, let's go.
Dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from or whatever comes. Sometimes you have to be a little bit lucky, but we are poised to have an economy like no other, not only in this country but anywhere. And when you hear the kind of numbers that I can tell you that Scott Bessent was with me the other day, and he's looking at numbers. He said, I can't. And that's all he's done his whole life, pretty much your whole life. Scott, you weren't going to be a football player, I don't think. Scott was not that great at football, but he was always good at numbers, right? And he was looking at numbers. He said, I've never seen anything like this. We're poised to do things that no other country's ever done. And, luck, I hate to say it, but we need a little luck. We don't want to get hit by something that nobody could have thought. Whoever thought we were going to hit by a pandemic? When I heard the word pandemic.
And see, the way Trump thinks of America, this kind of explains his position, because he basically exposed that NATO heavily relies on U.S. muscle. So he's saying, look, we need America first. We don't need NATO. But here's the issue. Once you go around starting wars and starting battles with a whole bunch of countries, and you over there bribing and trying to take over and buying and kidnapping, and you doing all these things, you need allies. And I don't think Trump sees that, right? Either he doesn't see it, or this is how it's supposed to be set up to happen, But let's go.
Pandemic, I said, that's an ancient problem. World War I, they lost 100 million people. It actually ended World War I. A lot of people don't know. The Spanish flu in World War I ended the war because all the soldiers were sick. The soldiers were so sick on both sides, and that war was raging, and they were all dying from the Spanish flu. They were sick as dogs. They couldn't fight. So, you don't know how that would have turned out. But so we do, subject to that, and I always have to put a caveat in for it, but we're poised to have the greatest growth of...
Somebody says something interesting in the chat. He says, you need liable allies, not weak ones. Okay, that's an interesting take on it, but who else would ally with America? Who else would ally with America than, the United Nations, the Western world? Who else will America have? That's the question. And I get it. Some people would say that Trump was just being honest. Some people would say, Trump is right, because why should we feel obligated to defend other countries? The NATO, they heavily rely on our military muscle. Yeah, I hear all that. But you need allies, and you already been the war machine that you've been set up to be over 70 years ago. Somebody said, you be surprised who's going to run with us. I don't know, man. America's done too much. America's done too much to other countries, man.
Any large country, I think any country that there's been, when you look at what's happening in the United States, it's really...
If anything, Russia would be strengthened. Russia would be strengthened through all of this. But let's go.
Amazing.
Thank you. One thing that maybe keeps you up at night, I know you don't sleep that much anyway, Mr. President, is the debt. The U.S. debt is high, is now the biggest expenditure on your budget. How to get out of that impulse?
Well, the big thing is growth. Growth is the way. If we grow like this, we go from having at 37 trillion dollars, we go from having high debt to low debt. But we also are cutting expenses, the old-fashioned way. And we have extraordinary growth. I think we're going to be growing our way out. I think we're going to be paying off debt. We're taking in tremendous money from tariffs fairly.
Let's go.
50% of the fraud. 50. And when I heard they're going to spend $50 billion building, and I said, what? I would do that, and they
were a true diplomat, huh?
I became a diplomat for the first time. Well, who taught me that? Marco Rubio. He said, so we're doing great. The country is just doing great. We have great people. Thank you. And I see other people. We have...
Hey, Kingdom Minded, thank you for the support, man. I appreciate it. And I want to go into this timestamp where he's directly speaking about NATO. And then we got to talk about what's going on with Greenland, because there's some breaking news. There's some breaking news as well. Let's go.
We have Steve Witkoff, we have Jared. I got so many people. I'm in trouble because when I go back, they're going to be people with long faces. Sir, you didn't introduce me. I got so many people. And we have a lot of the greatest people anywhere in the world. I know them all. So I won't continue because we'd be here all day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also know that you're a deal maker, and then maybe coming back to Greenland and Ukraine. What kind of deal in the end do you see between the U.S. And Denmark? Because, I guess you see it now as a negotiation going on, or?
Well, it's costing Denmark hundreds of millions a year to run it. And Denmark's a small country and they're wonderful people. But, it's very expensive. It's a very big piece of ice. And it's very important. I mean, I don't want to repeat the speech, but it's very important that we use that for national and international security. That can create a power that will make it impossible for the bad guys to do anything against the perceived good ones. And it's a great block for Europe, just like, Denmark was supposed to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. They didn't spend the money. They didn't spend anything almost. And we'll see what happens. I just say this. NATO has treated the United States of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. We never got anything. We actually took care of the needs of NATO for years and years, which I felt was always unfair. So I got NATO to pay because they're rich countries. But I think it's time that NATO step up. We're helping them with Ukraine. Without us, I think Putin would have gone all the way. I think we have it. I think there could have been a World War III, if you want to know the truth.
So, right here, Trump he's pretty much calling NATO out. Now, how is NATO going to respond to this? Now, me looking at this prophetically, once America is on their own, they're going to be a target. So will NATO respond with, okay, we're going to step up. We're going to help America. We're going to finance certain things. We're going to, keep them out of all these wars and let America thrive. Or are they going to respond the very opposite? Right here, this is one of those things that can be a real determining moment. Because scripturally, what's inevitable is that America gets destroyed. That's what's scripturally sound right there. And I mean, every facet of this culture. And so, looking at it from that perspective, I think that they're going to leave America high and dry. That's what I personally believe. I personally believe that America is going to continue to be, I believe America will continue to be like a dog that they have on a leash. And once it's time for countries to really come together in world unity, then they're going to pretty much treat America like their scapegoat. That's what I personally believe. I could be wrong. But I'm, over here we read the scriptures and that's what we follow. Let's continue.
If Kamala was elected or Joe, any one of those, those thinkers, I think you could have ended up in World War III. And I will say Steve Witkoff has been dealing incredibly with. But we're not going to have World War III. We want to get it stopped. But we're not.
Somebody said America like a dog? You're crazy. Well, I mean, did we want to get involved with Israel and Iran? No. But they did it anyway. You think America wants to get involved with all these wars? The reason I say like a dog on a leash, because you could just sick a dog anywhere. If America is pretty much the military force of the United Nations, then yeah, like a dog would be a good analogy there. You let that dog off the leash anytime you want to, you need some military force. People always ask, why are we always involved in wars we don't have nothing to do with? That's because that a dog got to do what it got to do. Revelations 18:8, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Exactly. Exactly.
Could have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I think that could have evolved into World War III. It was a very, very bad situation, and it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed.
How close do you think there is on an agreement on Ukraine? I had the pleasure of speaking with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner yesterday. I know they're working hard on it. I know that they're also traveling now. Do you see this very close or still?
Well, I hate to say it. I thought that was going to be so. I settled 8 wars plus, and I thought that was going to be one of my easier ones. Not the easiest. Some I settled in a matter of hours.
So for those who just joining, you got to hear what Trump said about NATO. He said something very interesting. We're just going to go back a little bit and play it.
And it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed. World War III, we want to get it stopped, but we're not going to have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I know those thinkers. I think you could have ended up in World War III. And I will say Steve Witkoff has been dealing incredibly with. But we're not going to have World War III. We want to get it stopped, but we're not going to have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I think that could have evolved into World War III. It was a very, very bad situation, and it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed.
How close do you think there is?
Hold on.
I think that could have been a world war, so I got NATO to pay because they're rich countries. Of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. Denmark was supposed to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. They didn't spend the money. They didn't spend anything almost. And we'll see what happens. I just say this. NATO has treated the United States of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. We never got anything.
See, when people talk about NATO, they imagine unity, loyalty, a collective defense. Most people really don't realize that alliances only hold as long as the interests actually align. When Donald Trump challenges NATO on the World Economic Forum, that's a bold move. He didn't do it in a chaotic fashion, but it was in what you would call an exposure fashion. He exposed NATO. The Greenland situation, that's not what created the fracture. However, it did reveal that the fracture really exists and has always existed under the surface. Trump, because so many world leaders or NATO leaders came out and spoke directly against what Trump is doing. So Trump's issue with NATO is not something emotional. It's more like a transactional issue. Trump being a businessman. And, I'm not, me, I always oppose Trump on a lot of things, but this is one of those situations where a lot of what Trump does is necessary. Yeah, I gotta say it. When I'm talking about from a business perspective, when it comes to war, a lot of things he did. Listen, let me make this very clear. I am completely against what he did in Venezuela. But what I mean by necessary, if he didn't do what he did in Venezuela, BRICS would have took over America. So from his perspective, the leader of the country, he's going to do what any person would do who is actually trying to preserve the country. That's just the truth. I mean, any president would have did it. BRICS would have knocked U.S. out. They would have had the American dollar pretty much X'd out unless Trump go get the biggest oil supply in America. So yes, he actually protected U.S. interests. Now, do I agree with it? No, because I don't agree with America at all. America's Babylon. It's an evil place. And I'm trying to really word this in a way so you can understand that there's levels to it. No, I don't agree on colonization. But what I'm trying to explain to you on a surface level, On a surface level, these people are only doing what they're set to do. It will always be these criminals taking care of criminals and this wickedness that they got going on. This is what they do. This is what Babylon does. Yes, Yarvis says the intelligent people understand what you're saying. I'm glad, because people will twist that. The unintelligent will say, well, Nubreed agrees with Donald Trump. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I understand what Trump is doing. America was built on war, colonization, conquest, and power moves. So they can't just stop doing what they're doing. In order to secure this Babylonian wicked society, which they'll never secure it, they only think they're securing it. But in order to prolong their leadership, they're willing to do anything. They're willing to make the tough decisions because they know that their leadership is running out of time. They know that their time is, running out. Their time is running out. Babylon has to fall. Yeah, you got to know to understand your enemies. Charles Brown gets it. So we just studying how the European powers are moving. We studying how they operate. Let's go.
We actually took care of the needs of NATO for years and years, which I felt was always unfair. So I got NATO to pay because they're rich countries. But I think it's time that NATO step up. We're helping them with Ukraine. Without us, I think Putin would have gone all the way. I think we have it. I think Putin.
And then you got to look at it like the U.S. has been protecting assets that it doesn't even control. And that's their problem with NATO. And that's more than likely what is really frustrating Trump, because as a businessman, you don't really protect assets that you don't control. You get what I'm saying here? And then the Greenland situation, we got to understand Greenland belongs to Denmark. But it gives a lot of support. Is massively important to all Arctic dominance. And that goes from missile defense, global shipping lanes. And so Trump just pretty much saw this as a logical move, a security move. But NATO, they seen it as, oh, this dude crossed some lines. That's how NATO looked at it. They like, hold on now. Trump is crossing some lines here. This is about power. This is about leverage. Who really calls the shots inside of the alliance? And Trump is, I don't know, he's getting too power drunk. He's getting to be a bit much for the European allies. And people get scared of stuff like this. And that's what could also make you a threat, make you a target. So that's just something to consider right here. This is interesting stuff when you really study it. But let's go.
I think that could have been a World War III, if you want to know the truth. If Kamala was elected, or Joe, any one of those, those thinkers, I think you could have ended up in World War III. And I will say Steve Witkoff has been dealing incredibly with, but we're not going to have World War III. We want to get it stopped, but we're not going to have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I think that.
Well, World War III is inevitable. And World War III, I would say technically has already started, because everybody's divided. The countries are divided. Households are divided. Democrats and Republicans. We already at war. Everybody's at war right now. And even the U.S. being at odds with NATO, that's a battle. That's a war in itself. For decades, NATO relied on the U.S. to be compliant. They relied on the U.S. to be compliant. And Trump just basically questioned Article 5. and that's defense spending. That's the loyalty itself. You know, Greenland, they made NATO very uncomfortable because it forced the alliance to confront everything that's happening. The whole, Greenland situation, I should say. But let's continue.
Could have evolved into World War III. It was a very, very bad situation, and it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed.
How close do you think there is on an agreement on Ukraine? I had the pleasure of speaking with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner yesterday. I know they're working hard on it. I know that they're also traveling now. Do you see this very close or still?
Well, I hate to say it. I thought that was going to be so. I settled 8 wars plus, and I thought that was going to be one of my easier ones. Not the easiest. Some I settled in a matter of hours.
Hey, Trump is BSing. There's no proof to him stopping 8 wars. Like that. You can fact check that all day. This man did not stop 8 wars. Like, he's petitioning so heavy for a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, the man's lying, bro. Like, he think he making Earth great again. Like, I don't know what's up with this guy. He didn't stop 6 wars. He didn't stop nothing. Like, cut that out. Trump didn't stop no wars. He just won a Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know what it is with this guy. He want to be emperor of the world. I created world peace. He wants to be Jesus Christ. He created world peace all of a sudden. Like, let's just stop that. Let's stop that. That's an exaggeration. A huge exaggeration.
I'm good at that stuff. The United Nations should be doing this. I shouldn't be doing it, but it doesn't matter. It's got to get done, saving a lot of lives. We're saving millions of lives. With Ukraine, Russia, there's tremendous hatred between President Zelensky and President Putin. That's not good. That's not good for settlements. We know from dealing. There's abnormal hatred. With that being said, I think Russia wants to make a deal. I think Ukraine wants to make a deal.
Somebody says show proof he didn't. No, the burden of proof is to show he did. The burden of proof is on him. Trump getting on the news and say he stopped 8 wars with no proof is crazy work. Let's go.
And we're going to try getting a deal done. Steve, I think I can say that we're reasonably close. But what happens is oftentimes we'll have a deal with...
He wants the Nobel Peace Prize because Barack Obama got one, which Barack Obama should have never got one either. But let's go.
Russia's set, and President Zelensky will not do it. You saw that when he was in the Oval Office. I was not happy. And then we'll have President Zelensky wants to make a deal, and Putin doesn't want to make the deal. It's a very difficult balance. And it's big time, and it is, to use a word, it's a bloodbath. It's horrible what's happening. It's a drone war. The drones are killing, thousands of people a week, thousands. We have to get it stopped. So I believe they're at a point now. I'm going to meet with President Zelensky later today. I believe they're at a point now where they can come together and get a deal done. And if they don't, they're stupid. It goes for both of them.
Yeah.
And I know they're not stupid, but if they don't get this done, they are stupid. So I don't want to insult anyone, but you got to get this deal done. Too many people are dying. It's not worth it.
President Sisi is sitting on the first row here. He spoke earlier today and also complimented you on.
Yeah, Trump is something else, man. So he spoke against NATO. Now we got to talk more about this Greenland situation because we have some breaking news on this. Trump, he said, listen, he don't need to use violence, that he's just going to buy Greenland. And I guess that's what, I don't know, our tax dollars. I guess that's U.S. money. I don't know. But he said, look, I'm just going to boss up. I don't need to use violence. I'm finna buy Greenland. Like, so what I'm hearing right now is you could just be out here either taking or buying sovereign nations. Is this where we at, America? Like, what is going on here? Who money he using to go buy a country, a sovereign country at that? What are y'all thoughts on that? Anyway, I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna chime in on this. Let's go.
You have talked about this framework, the beginning of a framework that you've spoken with the NATO secretary about. Can you tell us anything about that? Does this ultimately mean that the U.S. will ultimately acquire Greenland?
Well, I don't know if I can say that, but it could be. I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. But in the meantime, we're getting everything we wanted: total security, total access to everything, have as many bases, have all the equipment that we want. And very importantly, we're building the Golden Dome, we call it. It was called the Iron Dome. Somehow the Golden Dome sounded a little bit better, but we have a technology that's second to none. You saw what we did with Israel, and that's our ingenious that did that. And it's amazing. It's just, it's foolproof, and we're going to be building it, and it works much better when we have access to Greenland. Just covers more territory, covers it more accurately. Missiles will be more accurate by having it. It's very important strategically as a piece.
I mean, how is it that we could just be talking about just residing in other people's land like it's not their land, bro? Like, y'all don't find that crazy? It's like, yeah, we just gonna move in on your sovereign land because we can set up shop right here. We can, we can set up our military bases and we can do X, Y, and Z. Like, what type of geopolitical ambition is this coming from this guy? And also, it looked like he been in that damn tanning bed just a little bit too damn long. Trump damn near nigga right now, y'all. What the hell's going on here? Look at that. Holy moly, sir. What's going on with you? Sheesh. Yeah, he's looking like a brother right now. What's going on with you, man? You've been in that tanning bed. Hey, listen, it ain't the color on my computer. Everything is right. You like a black man with a blonde wig right now, bro. What's happening? But anyway, like I was saying, what kind of ambition is this? United States could just take control of Greenland? That's a vast Arctic territory that belongs to Denmark. And the people have repeatedly said, look, we are not for sale. Hashtag not for sale. But Trump's argument is it's just a piece of ice. Yo, that is what he argued. This man Trump said, yo, it's just a piece of ice. Greenland is the size of France. This man said it's just a piece of ice. I should be able to do what I need to do. Bro, anyway, this dude is crazy, man. This dude is crazy, bro. The audacity.
And we will have everything we want. We're getting everything we want at no cost.
So the Golden Dome will be on Greenland?
A piece.
And we're going to build a golden dome over there because this is what the Europeans do. They don't just colonize without building their statues. Nah, if they're going to colonize, they're going to make sure that they put their little tokens there. Trump's argument is that Greenland isn't just ice on a map, but it's a strategic stronghold with mineral wealth, because that's what it's really about. It's really about the minerals. Y'all got to understand, every place that Trump goes, every place that America goes to colonize is about getting the resources. See, it has military significance there, mineral wealth there. It has proximity to key Arctic defense routes, including the U.S. Patufic Space Base. Yo, there's a game that I play on my phone. right now I can't think of the name of the damn game, so I shouldn't even have brung it up. But there's a war game I play, so I'm into stuff like this because I see how they strategically move. And when you study this particular game, you can see it. You can see it play out in real time. They're doing it. They're playing this like a game. It's all about resources, man. It's all about power. Trump is trying to make the U.S. stronger than NATO and whatever other world power. That's what he's doing right now. I'm telling you, this is some interesting stuff here we're seeing, but let's go.
Of it, yes, and it's a very important part because it's everything comes over Greenland. If the bad guys start shooting, it comes over Greenland. So we knock it down. It's pretty infallible. It's amazing. You know, Ronald Reagan had the idea a long time ago, but we didn't have any technology at that point. The concept was great, but there was no technology. Now we have unbelievable technology. I mean, virtually 100%.
So what are we talking about? An acquisition of Greenland? Are you going to pay for it? I mean,
we're talking about it. It's really being negotiated now, the details of it, but essentially it's total access. It's there's no end. There's no time limit. We're not doing a 99 or a 10-year or anything else. You know, the famous 99-year deals that you hear about, because countries can't do it for that. Countries go on longer.
Hold on. Somebody said host is all emotional arguments against Trump. No, that has nothing to do with emotions. I don't know what you're talking about. But nonetheless, the facts are that the northernmost Department of Defense is one of America's first lines of defense against any Arctic threats. And what we got to keep in mind is Trump wants to have control over all of that. He wants access over that. So this is about security as well. It's about getting minerals. It's about security. It's about having military advantage. It's about power, essentially. So when it comes down to it, if he pays for Greenland, he's not worried about the money. It's about the power. It's about the power.
So I think it's going to be something that's very well, already it's being reviewed very well. Well, I noticed the stock market went up very substantially after we announced it, but the details are being negotiated now. It'll be very good.
so because the GDP of Greenland is like $3.3 billion, but people are valuing Greenland of between 50 billion and almost $1 trillion. So what are you willing to pay for Greenland?
Well, I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national.
Wow. So I guess they're working out something where he can have total access to Greenland and he ain't got to pay for it. That's what they're talking about right now. You know? So, I mean, that's interesting. I don't know what he's going to do. How is he going to give him I don't know. He's not even telling us how he's doing such a deal, but let's play a little bit more, see if we get some context.
National security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the Golden Dome, and the Golden Dome is going to be something that's going to be very amazing. It'll be Israel times probably 100. And we need it. I think we need it. And it's all going to be made in the United States. We have the best weapons in the world. We have the best companies in the world. We want them to produce faster. And, we've put a mandate out. You're going to have to produce faster, whether it's the Patriots or the Tomahawks or the F-35s.
This is colonization. This is colonization, man. Let me see. Somebody says the world has no idea. We waste more on defense than the rest of the world even spends. In the end is what you don't know about our capabilities. Yeah, that's right. He's doing what colonizers do. He's doing what they do. You know, you go in and you take over. And see, Middle America right now, they look at all of this as just necessary evil, and they don't worry about it. But Meanwhile, there's a lot of division going on in Middle America. It's a whole lot going on, a lot of riots and protests and all these things going on in country. That's going on in-house.
Anything else, we make the best equipment, but they have to make it a lot faster.
And you've said you want a defense budget of $1.5 trillion for 2027. How do you pay for that with the $37 trillion debt load?
Yeah, the money that's coming in is astronomical. You know, we'll be taking in over $600 billion this year alone in tariffs, and that's because we're doing it nice and easy. We're not even doing it strongly. We hope we have a good decision from the Supreme Court. If we don't, we figure something else. But it certainly makes life a lot easier if we have that decision that we're waiting for. If we don't, we'll do something else. But we have a lot of money coming in. We have a tremendous success. We have over $18 trillion. It could be when I get the final numbers, could be more than that now because, you know, that was a month and a half ago, but we have $18 trillion coming into the country in the form of investments. We have thousands of businesses being built all over the country. And you see it.
And Tahan, you got it right, my brother. The American people ain't finna see none of that. That's the elephant in the room. The rich gonna get richer, and people are gonna claim how great America is while struggling to make ends meet. And that even goes for middle America. That's the elephant in the room. The people ain't gonna see none of that. This is for his billionaire buddies, man. That's what this is for. You know, Trump's Greenland push, it's not really just a negotiation. It's a geopolitical takeover. And it forced NATO and Europe to confront all its unresolved tensions about the burdens that they share among each other, what their defense priorities are, and it just shows you just how ambitious America really is. It shows you how ambitious Donald Trump really is. Let me see. Okay. For the person that called me a fool, they just got blocked. They got you up out of here real quick. Hey, you came to the wrong platform for that. I advise you come in and be respectful. You know, you got your keyboard and you can speak how you want to speak as long as you debating, you bringing out different talking points, but we ain't going to just come in and get the name calling. You could disagree all you want. But when you just jump in and start calling names, then just know. And you will be booted. You know, you can come in and share your piece and say, hey, Bree, you might be wrong on that because this happened. You'll be surprised how receptive I am to hear other people's opinions. But if you come in here and you're not wise enough or articulate enough to speak your disagreement, then you're not welcome here. I want the brightest of the bright. You know, you gotta be ready to really speak. You'd be surprised. I might say, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, I never thought of it that way. All right. Let's play a little more of this and then, yeah, we'll get into it.
Report on it better than anybody else. I appreciate that. But, you know, when you think of 18 trillion plus, no country's done anywhere near that. Like, that's probably 4 times, 5 times more than any other country's ever done.
And I always say money goes where it's treated best.
Well, it's
you've
treated
got
good.
the right policies, obviously.
But they want to be treated good. They want to know that, you know, we have a country that's we had a dead country 1 year ago. This was a dead under Biden. You know that better than anybody, but we were a dead king. The king of Saudi Arabia said it to me. I use it all the time. He said, 1 year ago you were a dead country. Now you have the hottest country in the world. We're the hottest country in the world.
Mr. President, are our relations with Europe?
We got the hottest country in the world, but the food is trash. The groceries are expensive. The rent is sky high. The housing market is trash. I mean, come on now. How are we going to be the hottest country in the world and people struggling paycheck to paycheck? People don't have a damn savings account. We better off going buy Walmart houses. We better off spending $10K going to Walmart getting houses on some land than just buying a house. And if you mean the hottest country as far as the country that's closest to hell, then yeah, I would agree. America is the most hellacious country. Hot as hell. Now, that's just my opinion. If you're talking about a country that's in the streets right now, arguing and fighting for crumbs and scrapping each other for crumbs, if you're talking about Democrats and Republicans going to war, yeah, I guess it is pretty hot out there. I guess it's pretty hot. If you talk about racial tension and anarchy, yeah, the hot country. Somebody says you're deflecting from the subject. No, I'm not. He said America has the hottest country, and I responded. Far as what he got going on in Greenland, in Greenland, it caused a rift. But we have yet to see how this is going to all pan out.
Deteriorating or worsening. I mean, French President Macron called the Greenland situation colonialism. European leaders have these emergency talks to try to retaliate or stop your plans. You're threatening France with 200% tariffs on wine and champagne. There's been a real reaction from the European group. So,
well, they put a service charge on us, which is something that they're going to have to remove. I think we get along good, but, I've always debated, we are always going to be there for them, but will they be there for us? I've always said that.
Now, that's alarming what he just said about NATO. He says he's always debated, we'll be there for them, will they be there for us? Now, this is where prophetically, that's alarming right there. Because if you don't believe that we will have those alliances with NATO, if something hit the fan, that is rather daunting, because we got a lot of conflict going on the world stage. You got Iran, you got Venezuela, you got Greenland. Tension brews between China and Russia at times. And if you believe that NATO won't be here for us, that goes back to my whole point of what I've been bringing out. Where does that leave America? In the brink of a major conflict that is targeted right here at America. That's all I'm saying. Let me see. At Aberley, he says, I like how you like the wise, but clearly your followers in the comments appear to be conveniently biased. No, the people in my comments, if they disagree, they will speak on it. But if I'm speaking facts, they're going to agree with the facts. My audience, one thing about it, we don't have an echo chamber over here. We don't have an echo chamber over here. And what we do agree on is biblical prophecy and how it is unfolding. But if you stick around for a while and subscribe, check out the material, you will see just how intelligent this audience really is. And if you're not subscribed, you're watching me for the first time, hit that subscribe button. Let's continue.
If we ever needed them, because NATO has very much been a one-way street, we actually paid until I came along. We were paying for, I think we paid 100% the cost of NATO. They weren't paying and we were paying. We have hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Germany. We have 50,000 soldiers in other countries. We have a lot of soldiers, not only Europe and other places. And, you know, we want that to be reciprocal. We want to be liked and respected. So I've always said, and we get along very well with NATO, I think, but I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And
that's a good question. I think they won't be there if you ever needed them. Honestly. And, you know, like I said, Trump is not the first president that gave pushback on NATO, but to the degree of how he's doing it, you've never really heard. He's giving out specifics. He's giving out details. Thank you for the support. Mighty says, at this point, all countries will all attack the U.S. because of Trump's ignorance. Wow. It's a bold statement. Bold statement. I'm telling you, Dwight D. Eisenhower, he warned Europe in like the 1950s that the U.S. would not carry NATO forever. You know, he threatened to pull U.S. troops out of Europe as well. You know, if allies didn't rearm. Eisenhower, you know, he pushed hard for Europe to take responsibility for its own defense. So this is nothing new. Richard Nixon, he questioned why the U.S. was footing the bill for global defense. So in some regards, I mean, I believe what Trump is doing is necessary. I believe it's necessary. I mean, you got to agree with Trump on this one. I mean, listen, in this situation, if he's bold enough to pull that off, he shouldn't be doing it while in the midst of wars. That's my only issue. You doing that while bullying other countries is dangerous. You know, Ronald Reagan, he publicly supported NATO, but privately, you know, he thought that America should be hard on spending when it comes to NATO. You know, he threatened reductions as well. Somebody says, how much does the U.S. spend on NATO? Obviously, they're spending too much because there's been multiple presidents who've complained about spending money on NATO. Barack Obama even criticized NATO, called NATO members as free riders. Obama warned European nations they were relying too much on the USA. Said NATO risks becoming irrelevant without reform. So if you Democrat, Republican, I don't care. The bottom line is Donald Trump is not the only president that addressed this issue, but this is also the only president that he took it to another level. Which means he'll probably get some type of results. I don't know. Let's go.
That's really the ultimate test, and I'm not sure of that. I know that we would have been there, or we would be there, but will they be there? And let's hope that never happens. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that, and they did. They stayed a little off the front lines, but we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries. And, you know, now under my administration, that began because we had a very successful first term. That began then, but it has to be a two-way street.
So the U.S. pays about 16% of NATO's official common funded budget. About 16%, which is roughly around $4 to $5 billion per year. All right. In dollar terms, In dollar terms, that works out to several $100 million annually. And which is that's a small fraction of the overall US defense budget. It's a small fraction of it. Let's go.
And it's been a two-way street, much more so, and now it's really been a two-way street.
So what should we expect from the European countries? I mean, they've got this EU anti-coercion instrument that would be, services, impacting our services, as you said. And then the Danish pension fund said that they're going to exit U.S. treasuries, $100 million treasuries at the end of December. European countries hold trillions of stocks and bonds from the U.S. Do you worry that they would start selling those in retaliation?
If they do, they do. But, if that would happen, there would be a big retaliation on our part. And we have all the cards.
Mm-hmm. And how much of all of this, you've been so tough on so much. I mean, Venezuela, Iran, etc., a long list. How much of this is messages to China and Russia as well?
I think they see what happens. Look, we attacked Iran. We wiped out their nuclear capacity one night. This was supposed to have been done for the last 25 years, and it wasn't by American presidents. And
I think they miss. I think those bunker busters miss. But nonetheless, listen. Let's go ahead and switch this over here. Look. There's a lot of things taking place politically and geopolitically. What we should be doing as American citizens and global citizens worldwide, we should be living a lifestyle that seeks repentance, because we are in some tumultuous times. We're in some tumultuous times, and change in our personal lives should be key. We do evaluate what's taking place. In the news, we see what's going on. And from the famous quotes of Malcolm X, the future is for those who prepare for it. So in this instance, we gotta move accordingly based on what we see, what we feel, what we know, and start to move wisely. All of this frivolous spending, be careful with that. Tangible goods, because no matter how rich Donald Trump makes America, what you got to keep in mind is ultimately about control. Control over whom, you should say. Control over you, control over you, control over me. Control is what it's ultimately about. They want to be able to get all the resources they can to make AI. I'm talking about to make AI go to another complete revolution. AI is about to go through another revolution. A lot of the minerals they're getting, a lot of the resources they're getting is for AI, and it's for weaponry as well. But they're going to create a new financial system. And it may seem like things are going to get better at some point. Like, man, America's making all this money. All these power moves are being made. The colonizers seem to have it right, because they just going over taking, and it seems to be no consequences. Meanwhile, Bible prophecy is still unfolding, because as they gather all these resources, the resources will be used to gain more control over you and me. That's what it's really about. Because it takes finances, it takes resources, it takes mineral to do exactly what they want to do, to create the mark of the beast system. And that's what we're coming into. So a lot of people are probably trying to understand why all of this is happening. That's the ultimate goal. So nonetheless, I just thought I'd come through and share this particular video with y'all. Of course, I got more material coming. If you're new to the platform, make sure you subscribe. I will be back later with more. I want to thank each and every one of y'all. Y'all stay safe out here. With that being said, shalom, peace.